True peace, Kens. It is November the 13th, 2020, and I am back at y'all with another one. And if you trying to stay ahead of the game, guess what? You should subscribe to Peep the Slang. Whose fault is it? Is the name of the article. Peep the Slang when it's given. Question: why is there no Article 3, Section 1 court available? Answer: because we didn't finish the reconstruction and provide ourselves with one. One of the most galling things about this entire situation became apparent early on when we began grappling with certain cardinals in the Roman Catholic Church who were high enough in the hierarchy to know the truth. To a man, their answer was that, well, it was our own fault. We had the power, we simply didn't do our duty to exercise it. We have the right to self-govern but didn't do so. And who is at fault for that? Question: why don't we have constitutional sheriffs in every one of our 3,100 counties? Answer: because we didn't bring our assemblies into session and elect them. We let the district assemblies elect and hire law enforcement officers instead of hiring our own people to act as peacekeepers. And again, we didn't provide ourselves with what we wanted. We let George do it. So the Cardinals shrug and say, it's your own fault. You have every right to do it, but you haven't done it. While blame other people who have stepped into the gap and did what they could do to keep things running in your absence. They have a point, except that nobody in their ranks, and certainly nobody in the British territorial government, ever did their moral duty to us as our employees. They didn't inform the populace of the circumstance, and they didn't help us one iota with organizing the reconstruction, and that much was certainly within their job description. According to the Cardinals, we have been absent for many decades, and though they and others hoped for our return, that hope faded as time went by, and there was no sign of us until now, when we showed up on their doorsteps ready to spit. What they mean, of course, is that our American government has not been in session. We haven't brought our states into session in decades. We slept on and let the Brits constrict us as babies. Nobodies have been running the show, and the reconstruction of the Federal Republic and other matters of pressing interest still haven't been addressed. If our government actually continues to exist at all, why haven't we assembled our states of the Union and finished the enrollment of all the states that have been formed during and after the Civil War, for instance? What sane people will leave their country unsettled and in the care of custodians for over 100 years? The Cardinals wag their heads and say what we're supposed to think. The people and resources of those states have been left hanging for generations in limbo, waiting for you Americans to finish their enrollment as states of the Union. By the grace of God, we have called our state assemblies into session, and our assembly members have straightened out the issue of their actual political status. We have finally enrolled all the states that were formed during and after the Civil War as states of the Union. So far, so good. And we figured it out, and we did it ourselves, standing on our own 2 feet, thank you. The Queen and His Holiness Francis have done precious little to help, but then why should they? Our absence left them in control of our assets and our trade policies. It has allowed them to conscript our men as cheap mercenaries, control our currency via the implementation of legal tender laws, and a whole lot more. They were in the catbird seat for generations, and they liked it that way. But whose fault is it? I encounter people every day, patriots, who want to blow off their mouths, who have waived copies of the constitutions, and who make all sorts of claims about what they owe us, meaning the remaining federal subcontractors. These people are invariably confused and unable to distinguish between what they owe us and what we owe ourselves. They also often mistake the purpose and meaning of the constitutions too. The constitutions do empower the federal government, but from our sides of it, the important point of that, the Constitution also limit the federal government and obligated to perform and yield certain guarantees to those of us who claim our birthright political status as Americans. When you get down to it, as we have, you soon discover that you are for the most part whipping a dead horse. Yes, there have been usurpations, infractions, and fraud schemes to end runs in those constitutional obligations, plots to undermine our sovereignty, racketeering, pillaging, and all sorts of other evils and criminality. Our employees shouldn't have done this, and they shouldn't have done that. And those directing our employees for us shouldn't have done this or that either. Gross crimes have been committed against our nation and against us individual persons. It's all true, and yet, where were we? Why didn't we stand up and object and give our employees our instructions? We weren't doing our job, and they were never empowered to do our job for us. So the Cardinals take a step back on one slippery hill, nod their heads forward, and say, "We're sorry you're not happy with what we've done." But neither the Queen nor the Pope ever had the power to complete the reconstruction of our confederation of your federal republic. And that is absolutely true. The states have to reconstruct their own states of states. Those states of states have to reboot the confederation, otherwise known as the States of America. And then the States of America has to reboot the federal republic, the American portion of the federal government. Nobody on earth can do that for us. It's like blaming your next door neighbor because they can't eat your dinner for you and then beating them up because they can't. So while you may be angry with how your country has been administered, you haven't been done what you needed to do, and you've been in control, able to do it the whole time. The Cardinals wag their heads again. Let everyone on earth know that we finally did step up. Our states of the union are now in session.